order, councillors. It is now 4:30. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Councillor Patterson. Before we commence the public forum, please check that all your mobile phones are on silent. I'll just give you a minute to do that and check that I have got mine on silent. So welcome everyone to Public Forum. This is our final public forum for 2019, and I'll take this opportunity to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and best wishes for 2020. Public forum relates to representation on agenda item matters for the ordinary meeting of council to be held tomorrow morning, commencing at 9 AM here in Chambers. As our code of meeting practice includes live streaming, I need to inform all present that your attendance at this meeting is taken as consent to the possibility that your image and or voice may be recorded and broadcast to the public via our live stream. And the General Manager will now outline the guidelines for public forum.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Welcome everyone. Our public forum consists or allows for people who have put forward their names and nominated and been accepted to speak on items on the agenda. As the Mayor has outlined, we have two speakers tonight. One's on a notice of motion and one is in relation to the holiday parks. The two speakers are reminded that you have 5 minutes to speak on those matters. There are no extensions of time. The councillors are able to ask you questions, and those questions you have another minute to answer those questions per question, up to 1 minute to actually answer those questions. The Mayor has the ability, if people are going off subject or if they're becoming defamatory or derogatory towards councillors, staff, other members of the public, to actually pull speakers up, and I'm pretty sure our speakers won't be doing that today. But there is the ability for the Mayor to actually call a point of order and to ask for speakers to refrain from those sort of comments. What we do ask is for speakers to stick to the facts, to be respectful of the process. Also, for members of the public who may not be familiar with the process, we have the two public forum speakers, so each of those will speak and have the opportunity for questions. At the end of that, this public forum finishes. We then go into a councillor briefing session, which is a confidential briefing session generally on the business paper. So council don't actually debate or make any decisions tonight. That's actually done in the open council tomorrow. So this gives council a chance, after hearing the debates tonight or the points put forward by the public speakers, to actually have some time to consider that overnight and in the morning before they start to actually debate that, and also allows them to find out more information should there be issues raised from the public forum speakers in tonight's address, that they can actually get that further information and have it clarified before they actually debate the subjects tomorrow.
Thank you, General Manager. Is there any declarations of interest from councillors? Before I... yes, Councillor.
Sorry,
I was just actually, before you do, because councillors may not know if they've got declarations or not, I need to outline the two items that are going to be in the public forum. The first speaker we have will be Andrew Mealing, speaking against item 9.4 Macleay Valley Coast Licence and Management Program, and that'll be followed by Rupert Milholm, speaking for item 10.2, call to suspend logging in state forests. Does any councillors have declaration? Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to make a non-pecuniary, non-significant declaration that on the item with the holiday parks, that I stay at Hathead Caravan Park every year for the last 10-15 years for a week.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other declarations? There's no other declarations. So our first speaker this morning is Andrew Mealing from Hathead, and he will, if you'd like to come forward, thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
Mayor, Mayoress, councillors and council staff, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to speak against the proposal 9.4 of the meeting agenda. The agenda states that the council's key considerations is that annual and permanent licences are an important consideration when considering proposed site layout changes that aim to achieve the maximum economic return for the Macleay Valley Coast Holiday Parks. Our major concern is of the impact proposed changes will have at the village of Hat Head and whether a detailed feasibility study has been conducted on the impact this will have on the Sleepy Fishing Village. 47 annual site holders voluntarily contribute to the community of Hat Head. Surf Club, a family of 4 active patrolling members, contributes 336 voluntary hours, not including emergency call-outs, to meet the contractual requirements of an operational surf club. Without the operational voluntary surf club, the cost to the council for paid lifeguards would increase. Fishing Club, one of the biggest fishing clubs in New South Wales. With 248 members, it holds 12 annual comps, a Christmas Open comp, and the New South Wales Invitational events, which injects significant revenue into the local business. The Bowling Club, 47 annual site holders with the majority of adults being members, patronise the club, the restaurant, which keeps the club viable in the off-season for the tourists to enjoy during the peak season. The general store and the cafe rely on the patronage of the site holders during the off-season to keep them afloat. June Care, working bees to repair damage to retaining walls and beach access after natural weather events. There are 47 site holders, totalling 376 based on our site occupancy allocation. The village population is 326. The council wants to strip more than half of the village out of the community. The removal of annual licence holders is not in the best interest of the village of Hat Head. The annual site holders choose to inject money into the village of Hat Head throughout the year and contribute their time to running of the community organisations. The business management plan for Kempsey Shire Council Caravan Parks 2016 through to 2021 state occupancy from 2013 to 14 for Crescent Head on 30 cabins is 71% occupancy. On 189 tourist sites is 52% occupancy. Hat Head, 10 cabins, 63% occupancy. 101 tourist sites, 65% occupancy. Stewart's Point, 9 cabins, 47% occupancy. 69 tourist sites, 47% occupancy. Grassy Head, 4 cabins, 43% occupancy. 43 tourist sites, 33% occupancy. For the proposal of 9.4 to be warranted, a detailed independent study needs to be conducted which considers the financial and social impacts it will have on the community of Hat Head. The report states that this is an industry-wide practice to reduce and remove annual sites, yet there are many councils that have not done so. Newcastle City Council, Lake Macquarie City Council, Port Stephens Council, Mile Lakes Council. They're just a few. The council wants to adopt the strategies identified in the report for annual and permanent licence holders without any study into the severe negative impact that will have on the community of Hat Head. As our community representatives in council, this proposal needs to be rejected in the absence of any information on the social and financial impact on the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Mealing. Is there any questions from councillors? Councillor Saul.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I'm not sure about my fellow councillors, but my phone's been running red hot. And
A question?
And the question is, Madam Mayor, I'll ask the Speaker. The recommendation before Council is that number 1, the Council adopts the strategies identified in this report for management of annual and permanent licences. Would the Speaker believe that if that was to be deleted, the community would be happy with that resolution?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Morris.
Mr Mealing, thank you for your excellent presentation on Council's proposal to change the management of annual licence Crescent Head Council's holiday parks, with particular influence on reducing and eventually removing annual licences from Hat Head. My first question is, I note that you and your family are very involved in the community, as are many of the other annual licence holders. Given you and your family's involvement in and knowledge of the local surf club, and by the way, congratulations on your son Lachlan's success in his surf rescue certificate the last couple of days, and 3 others of the annual licence holders. What impact would you expect the proposal to have on the surf club if this goes ahead, and the permanent licence holders are lost to the community?
It would be a massive impact, as like I detailed before. The hours just my family contribute to the surf club is in the season, the peak season. We offer 336 hours. That's of our time we donate for the council to be able to boast that the beaches are safe. I'm only one family of several that of the permanent site holders at Hat Head, and there's several other families that contribute their time to donating their services to the Surf Lifesaving New South Wales and the safe protection of tourists that visit our park, and especially at Hat Head. We actually believe that with the removal of these permanent site holders that we are, that the surf club would actually would suffer dearly and could very well sort of request that they need assistance because of the impact that we do have also in the training of nippers and SRCs.
Madam Mayor, a further question. I understand that a considerable proportion of the fishing club members are annual licence holders. Roughly what percentage do you think would be members, and what impact would the potential loss of these members have on the fishing club?
Currently, the percentage of members of the Hat Head Fishing Club would be approximately 75%, of that being the site holders. We actually run the Hat Head Fishing Club. We're members of the committee, treasurers, presidents. If this was to come to fruition, well, it would mean that the Hat Head, the fishing club, being 60 years strong, would fold. It would most definitely fold because of the input that we hold and put into this club, and it would be absolutely detrimental to the longevity of this club, being 60 years old and one of the biggest in New South Wales, and the amount of money that it injects into the community, which has not been considered at all.
Madam Mayor, a further question. What flow-on effect could this have to any other organisations or groups in Hat Head? I believe that the fishing club is fairly pivotal in the bowling club and its financial sustainability.
Absolutely. The Hat Head Fishing Club is a sister club of the main club, being the bowling club. So the money with the competitions that they have annually and the open comps and the interstate branch titles that they bring a lot of people from out of the area, and the money that comes into the community of Hat Head. The effect as far as they are major donators to local communities. They just recently made a substantial donation to the Hat Head Rural Fire Service, fighting the fires up East Carrai at the moment. So they've donated for new equipment, which they don't get elsewhere. We provide the money for that through fundraising, and also to other local community groups within Hat Head that we donate money for local equipment.
I believe that you're currently a board member of the
Sorry,
bowling club.
Councillor, have you got another question?
Yes, I've got
Tha-
another few questions.
Thank you. You need to make sure that you're acknowledged.
Okay. I believe that you're currently a board member of the bowling club along with other licence holders. What impact could this proposal have on the bowling club besides that impact emanating from the fishing club?
This is one of the major impacts that we'll have to the community, being the bowling club. The bowling club, we are a struggling club, and in the off season it's extremely quiet at Hat Head, and the patronage from the 47 annual site holders out there is what that most definitely keeps that club afloat through the off season. The money that's injected into that club would be in excess of $100,000. Sorry. Not to mention the input that we have with the club, and as like I say, the community have appointed us to the board as directors. I'm not a Hat Head resident, but they have classed me as a resident to put me on the board. Also, the chairperson is not a Hat Head resident, and she's the chairperson of that board. So it would be detrimental to the club.
Got another one?
Whilst I understand your passion and love for Hat Head, in the event that your family's annual licence was not extended, would you and your family be in a position to provide the level of community support that you currently do at Hat Head?
No, we wouldn't be able to do that because the time constraints, the availability of us staying there to do what we do gives us that opportunity to service the community, especially the surf club. When the peak season, we stay out there continually through the peak season. We are on point all the time, even though we're not on the beach. We have people coming to us. They know we are the surf lifesavers. We have children that have incidents in the parks, broken limbs. We treat early morning injuries from everything from stingrays to oyster cuts. We are there to treat them injuries. We're you could say we are guardians of the park, and for us to be exited out of that park, we wouldn't be able to service it the way we do now, and we would lose our time that we actually spend in the community that we so dearly love.
From comments made and emails from many concerned community members, including local permanent village residents and business owners, are also concerned about this proposal. And I'm sure that many of my fellow councillors have received a plethora of emails and phone calls.
Your question,
about this matter.
Councillor.
What have you heard in the community, and what are your thoughts on the impact that it could have on the permanent residents and the business owners?
My phone hasn't stopped since the agenda has been released, and mostly then phone calls from permanent site holders, but from the permanent the residents of Hat Head, being the local builders, the plumbers, the shop owners, have come and voiced their deep concerns and wanted to know what angle and what we were going to do to try and curb this. They can see the economic and social impact that it will have on the village of Hat Head, being that Hat Head is only a sleepy fishing village. Please let's not get that confused with Crescent Head. Hat Head has not got the ability to grow any further. That is something that needs to be considered.
Mr. Milling, it appears that without the annual licence holders, you're saying that the fabric of society at Hat Head is likely to be impacted. How severe do you consider this could be?
From what I've seen in the last 3 days, I've had people in tears. I've had elderly people come to me looking at me for something that I can say positive to. We rub shoulders with the residents of Hat Head. They see what we do within the community. We work side by side on the beaches together. When there's major incidents that happen where accesses are washed out, we're there as a community all together. We call working bees on to fix these accesses up, to fix the fencing that gets washed away. We are the ones that do that. We rub shoulders together. If we're to leave this community, this is what will happen. The local community will be just, you talk about fabric, it will be unravelled and severely damaged.
That's all I've got, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your speech today. I do understand the concerns of the Hat Head residents. Can I just ask you a few questions? What sets Hat Head Village apart from other small beach communities? What's so iconic about Hat Head?
It's secludedness, it's quietness. It's not built out. It cannot go any further than what it is. That is what people love about that come to Hat Head. They love that fact that there's only 2 shops, that there's 1 club that services that community, that the community is actually is a part of the actual holidays that visit Hat Head. We know all the annual people that come to holiday at Hat Head, they come and interact with us. They know and want to know how we've been going, where's the good fishing spots. As opposed to any other park, Hat Head is in a national park. It hasn't got the infrastructure available that other parks have got, in question being Crescent Head, which has had new land allotments opened up. It's got infrastructure, bakers, butchers, supermarkets.
Another question. Would you, as a representative of the annual licence holders, Hat Head Village people as well, be willing to work with council to address these strategies and proposals that council are trying to do? because you can understand that council is trying just to financially manage the park.
Yeah,
better, I
yeah,
suppose.
absolutely. I would most definitely be available at all times. When you've got a group of people that rely heavily on you, I'm happy to be a representative for the annual site holders. I'm happy to convey communication between us to you guys. I'm happy to be present at any meeting that needs to be required. I just want to make sure that this outcome and this decision is not taken without fact, or it needs to be researched quite there needs to be a feasibility study done into the impact it'll have on this village.
And just lastly, thank you. Do you think that there's a need of the holiday park at Hat Head to move forward and to have some better facilities, or to change in any way?
I believe that all facilities have always got to be upgraded. There's always a need for infrastructure that's got to be updated as it wears out. You're in the environment that it's in. I believe that that's always a possibility, but I do understand that like Hat Head is at its maximum, I believe, and by trying to get rid of us site holders to increase the capacity of the park is something that I don't understand when their sewage system at Hat Head is at its worst. It's overloaded at the moment. So by getting rid of us and increasing that capacity, you're actually going to cost yourselves by the way the sewage system is out there, which is overloaded at the moment. So I can't see how it's viable to increase the capacity of that park.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Councillor McGinn.
Thanks for your presentation. Is your main concern with regards to Hat Head and not the other parks, and is that the concern of the people that you're representing? So do you have a slightly different view on Hat Head to the other parks?
It's something
I'm trying
that,
to understand.
yeah. Well, you cannot hold Hat Head in the same aspect as what Crescent Head is. The dynamics of them villages are totally different. The visitation of tourists to Crescent Head is all year round. It's well known for its surfing. It's well known for its taverns, its clubs. People love the bakeries there. The site, there's a lot of school teachers that live there. And that place has got the ability to keep growing as a community. Hat Head is a sleepy fishing village. That is what Hat Head is. And that's why people come to that village. That is why, that's the major difference between these two. Stewart's Point and Grassy Head. Grassy Head has got no infrastructure whatsoever, so the impact is going to be less. Stewart's Point, yes, there is, but it needs to be considered.
Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. I like your point, Andrew, about the permanent holders virtually doubling the population and maintaining a permanent, semi-permanent population there. But on the back of that, and talking about infrastructure, like Councillor Patterson said, in the negotiations with council, would you be open to an increase in the lease fee to help the costs?
We'd have to sit down and discuss that, most definitely. But we're not saying that. No, that's definitely not something that I won't throw off the table. But you must realise that we need time to discuss this in a proper way. So there's people that, yes, some people might be able to incur a site fee, and some people might not. But it depends on the amount of increase per CPI, so to speak. So yes, I know that the council's looking to get more revenue out of this, but I don't believe the way they're going about it is the correct way to do this. I think that what they're going to do is cripple the town. Well, it's not a town, it's a village. Let's just be quite clear on that. It's a sleepy fishing village. That is what Hat Head is well known for. It's a fishing village.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor McGinn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've just got a question. What is the waiting period, if that's what you call it, on people wanting to have a permanent, an annual lease site at Hat Head, to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my knowledge, there is no waiting period. There's no waiting period at all. So if I was to say I want to sell my site, it's to whoever wants to come and buy that site.
But there's none available. Is there no
There's
waiting
no
list?
sites currently available for sale,
Yeah.
and there probably won't be now.
No, but if I was to want to put anybody, a person was to put their name down, there's no list, you're saying, and there's no turnover. So when was the last time the last 2 or 3 sites turned over?
Currently, I think probably 4 months ago,
And
to
before
the best
that?
of my knowledge.
And before that? I'm just trying to understand what the demand is.
And prior to that, probably back in early March this year. That's the 2 that I'm currently aware of within the park. Thank you.
Councillor Shields, then I'll take Councillor Patterson. Councillor Williams.
Thanks, Mr. Milling, for your presentation. Can I just ask, I'll put you on the spot, in terms of infrastructure upgrades, if you were to kind of name your top 3 priorities, what would you say for Hat Head Caravan Park?
Facilities for the children.
As in...
At the peak periods at that park, there is 10 million kids, and they are all on the road and on push bikes, skateboards, and they're all on the road. They go to find the smooth tar,
Yep.
and that's where you find them.
Okay.
And equipment for them children to play on would be the most, that would be the first port of call, and then public toilets.
Yep.
Public toilets would be the next port of call.
Okay. And can I ask another question? My understanding is the annual licence holders can use their site for their annual fee for 150 nights a year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you can pay an additional fee to have extra nights. Is that correct?
If we go over that, we pay the standard rate or the peak period rate. It depends on the time that we're using that when we've gone over it. So every time that we go into the park, we let the park management know that we're staying, and that's taken on our record, how many nights we have. Also that we have our family members that come. I have personally family members that come from out drought-stricken Gulgong. They come to have respite at the park, and they average 6 to 8 weeks at a time.
Okay. So do you know, I know I'm putting you on the spot again, and we can find out from council, but what's the sort of uptake of annual licence holders that use it for more than 150 days?
I don't know that information currently. I couldn't tell you that. I'd have to access that with such short notice.
Yeah, sorry, I was just asking,
Yeah.
for people you know as such, you know, do people seem to use
I
it
do
more
know
than
that the
150
permanent
or-
site holders, their occupancy rate is the most is in the off season,
Yeah.
when everyone's gone.
Yeah, okay.
That's when we're most highly active. I mean, we're most mine personally and the families that are currently with the surf club. We're most active through the peak season, because we just live on the beach looking after the tourist kids from drowning. They get in the creek and they go way away. So people think we're babysitters on the beach. We're not, but that's how it comes. And and we actually do get patted on the back by the actual tourists that are there. They come up and say thank you.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mealy, for your presentation today. My question was going to be very much like, my first question was going to be exactly the same as Councillor Shields, so I'll leave that one out. But could you just outline when you and others were notified of these proposed changes?
Yes, we received an email on the 25th of September indicating that the council wanted to look at the park's licences. Then that was to be tabled at a meeting on the 19th of November. Since then, we received another email saying that meeting was deferred to the 17th of December, and that the agenda would be released for our knowledge on the 10th of December, which we actually presented to the council information centre and asked for that agenda, and that wasn't released on the 10th of January in business hours. It was released that night around 7 p.m. That gave us 4 days to sort of scramble to get all our affairs in order and get to where we are now. And as you can see, you have received a lot of correspondence from the people from Hat Head, and I don't think there's one bad comment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mealing. There's no more questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. You've sat there, you stood there for half an hour. Well done.
Thank you, Maris. Thank you, Maris. Thank you, councillors, for allowing me to have the time to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker this evening is Robert Milnholm. Oh, Rupert, sorry, Robert. No, it's Rupert. Thank you, Rupert. Rupert will be speaking for item number 10.2, suspend logging in state forests.
How do I
You
operate
have
this?
5 minutes starting
How
from...
do I operate this? Before we start, how do I operate this? Oh. Okay, got it. Thank you. I'm being asked by...
Rupert, just before
Madam
you do
Mayor,
start, and before we start the time, you'll hear a bingo when you've got a minute left. You'll hear a bing, like an alarm
okay.
go when you've got about a minute left, just so you know.
Okay,
Because you won't be able to see it up on the screen because your presentation's there.
Okay, I'll put my watch there. I haven't started yet, have I? Oh, what? Thank you. Madam Mayor, councillors, council staff, thanks for the opportunity. I've been asked by Macleay Living Sustainably to speak to the notice of motion put by Bruce Morris, Councillor Bruce Morris, sorry. And I'm speaking on behalf of Save Our Macleay River Incorporated. So I will confine my comments to the catchment. Yep. Where's the next one? It's not working. Oh, that's it. Thank you. I'm going to go into a bit of mapping because this is where the statistics come from. What areas are being involved. This map, I don't expect you to absorb it all at the moment because it'd be too detailed, but this map gives you intensive logging areas proposed by Forestry Corporation. Regrowth is the orange, the intensive was the red, and the yellow areas are non-regrowth logging areas. This differs substantially with the map of the 12-month planning provided by Forestry Corporation, which shows very few areas within the Kempsey Shire or the Macleay catchment for logging to be suspended under the motion. The main one in the you can see on the map, the catchment covers Kempsey, Walker and Armidale Regional Councils.
I'm just going to have to stop the meeting. The General Manager believes that someone's recording the meeting, and actually at a council meeting I always read a different an additional thing, sentence about our code of meeting practice, which I will read now. Also be aware, according to Council's Code of Meeting Practice in regard to any other audio or visual recordings of meetings, prior permission must be sought prior to the meeting and the decision to allow must be a unanimous decision of Council. So I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
It will be on the web because this is getting webcast, so you will be able to see it all on there.
It.
Or hear it. You won't actually see Rupert, but you will hear it.
Aren't you lucky?
Thank you. We did stop the clock.
No, thank you for that. I would hate to include that one. I'm short of time as it is. The main areas within the Kempsey Shire for proposed for logging on that map is basically in the Balangara area south of Kempsey near the Pacific Highway. Now, if you look at the next slide, which is no, that's wrong. That one. which shows you the areas over the top of each other. There is a significant increase in the areas of logging that's suspended. Sorry, I'm nervous. Now the next slide is the extent of bushfires in the area, i.e. the modified environment. There are some, this is mapped over the 9th of December, Carrai East fire and the others. And the yellow surround is the Macleay catchment, and the red surround is the Macleay catchment, and the yellow surround on there is Kempsey Shire. The total area burnt within the Macleay catchment alone is some 4,630 kilometres square. The extent of impact on the forest and environment can be clearly seen if you've been up there, and I will show you some photos in the next slide. The severity of impact will be worse in the areas of denser forest and creek-line corridors with a higher biomass and species diversity. Habitat trees with hollows, etc., and riparian wildlife corridors, and wildlife prior planned on harvest plans for retention and protection will be nearly all gone. This adds to the need for reassessment. Oops. Here are some photos of the impact of the drought, the top two, in rainforest, wet sclerophyll and dry sclerophyll. The forest is dying, dead or burnt, sunburnt that is. Mature endemic trees that aren't bushfire burnt are dying from lack of moisture, sap, and the bark is falling off. The habitat and the wildlife is changed. The bottom photo is a creek line. That one. The areas of logging were assessed with various constraints and opportunities, and this is a typical harvest plan. They're assessed by Forestry Corporation in New South Wales and approved by the EPA. And yeah, there's political influences in that. Normally the harvest plans consider to protect wildlife, environmentally sensitive areas, and modify and restrict operations. The notice of motion to suspend logging is strongly suggested. This notice of motion is not strong enough, direct or far-reaching enough to have any significant effect on the otherwise focus. Is that it? Or is that the minute?
That was the time.
Okay.
That's the time. But we have questions, so maybe we do have questions, Councillor. So if you're light on for a question.
Madam Mayor, can we just ask? Can
Oh,
I ask
yes.
Mr. Milholm how you would propose to change the notice of motion?
That's the question.
This is exactly what I was going to propose, and I'm hoping you can
Talk me
take
through
away
that.
a hard copy of this or view it on Council's database.
We will be able to have a copy of your presentation,
Please do.
and you have time to, you've got 1 minute actually to talk about to answer the councillor's question if you would like.
I believe that these suggestions give the motion more defined and targeted and actionable effect within the framework that governs forestry operations. Fundamentally, it's the proposed harvest plan amendments, the suspension and reassessment also be applied to the logging plans on private lands, and these re-prepared plans be done in consultation with the local government, perhaps public, and also in consultation with the Coastal Management Program, which has far-reaching tentacles above the estuary into the hinterland that will have an impact on the estuary. So there's teeth in that piece of legislation, but that hasn't been formulated yet. It's still under process.
Thank you. Is there any other questions of councillors? Councillor Baxter? And then I'll take Councillor Patterson. Councillor Baxter?
Just on Forestry Corp, Corporation, isn't it true that they are not going to log any of the burnt out areas of the catchment?
They would have to answer that. I don't know what they're planning since the bushfires.
Yeah, okay.
We've been trying to get hold of Peter Welsh, who is a water and soil scientist with Coffs Harbour, because we've been previously liaising with him about operations, and he's been fighting fires for 2 months. So we haven't been able to get hold of him, let alone find out what he's thinking of, or Forestry Corporation is thinking of.
Yeah. Well, Solar Timbers tells me, Armadale Road there, that that's their policy. But so your this proposal is talking about forest in the burnt out area. Is that right?
This is giving reasons for reassessment of the prior approved plans.
All of the logging area.
If it's been disturbed environmentally, which would have been, if you have a look at those photos, those are some areas that have been, the environment has been damaged, the wildlife wrecked, etc. So they actually have different scenario to assess. And I think we really need to bring the harvest plans up to speed for reassessment.
I agree.
It might give them more logs, it might give them less. But I think it needs to be reassessed with the changed environment.
Thank you.
I would support the motion in that respect.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just got one question. I can't work it out, mate. Like, how does locking up forests, where forests have been devastated because of the extra fuel that has been there because of they've been locked up, how does locking forests up, like, how does it help anything rejuvenate when, you know, we've seen what's happened to our forests and our trees and our wildlife because they've been locked up? How does that work? How do we save our forests by locking them up?
The motion is not to lock up the forests in perpetuity. The motion is to suspend it until it's reassessed. Suspend logging operations until the forests are reassessed.
Doesn't make any sense to it.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Rupert. I've just got a question around the suspension. Do you know what sort of impact that's going to have on employment in our valley?
Not greatly, because it's very mechanised these days.
Okay. So you don't think it'll affect it greatly at all?
Not great. Not the Kempsey Shire, and I think a lot of the damaged timbers are you know,
potentially useless.
Potentially, they're not loggable anymore.
Yeah. But this is on all forests.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, the motion is to put it to state forests, but I'm in my point number 2. I'm trying to put it into private as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, and councillors will have the opportunity to have a look at this overnight. Thank you very much.
Please do.
Thank you.
I knew I'd be short of time, so that's why I prepared it.
No, that's
Thank you.
very good of you to do that. Thank you. We'll now adjourn for a break before we come back, councillors, to our briefing session.